They all thought it was just a game. Chapter 2. Let the game begin. Morning sunlight spilled across the school courtyard, too bright for how early it was. Neat adjusted his collar, gaze sweeping lazily over the entrance as students filed in, their voices rising like static in the air. 10 days, Mike said, falling into step beside him. Just don't fall in love with the mission. Neat scoffed. Love's not in my vocabulary. Ethan appeared on the other side, grinning. Then spell rejection, just in case. The group snorted with laughter, but Neat didn't break stride. His eyes were already scanning the crowd, sharp and focused. She wasn't here yet. Not that he cared. Not really. Behind him, Reuben pulled out his phone and held it up. For the record, he said, clicking a picture. Day 1 begins. Isabel walked through the school gates with her head low, a soft breeze tugging at the loose strands of her hair. Her backpack felt heavier than usual, her steps a little quicker. She hadn't stopped thinking about yesterday. That boy, his voice. The way he looked at her like she'd done something wrong just by existing. At her locker, she paused. There was something stuck between the vents, folded, taped neatly. Isabel pulled it out, cautious. Her eyes narrowed as she read the single line. You bumped into a storm, and now it's following you. N. What the hell? She whispered under her breath. Uh-oh, Maya said, suddenly appearing at her side like summoned magic. Was that a note? Isabel gave a small sigh and held it out. Maya read it and immediately rolled her eyes. Neat, of course. Drama wrapped in a riddle. Ignore him, Sam added, stepping up behind them. He's allergic to being overlooked. I didn't even know who he was, Isabel said, shoving the note into her bag. Even worse, Maya smirked. Now he's offended. By second period, he was already waiting. Isabel pushed open the door to literature and nearly bumped into him again. This time, Neat stepped aside gracefully and gave her a slow smile, like he was doing her a favor. Hey, he said. She blinked, then brushed past him without a word. He followed her to her seat and leaned in just enough. Are you good at English? Isabel gave him a sideways glance. Why? Neat lowered his voice. I'm struggling with metaphors. What would you call a girl who's cold, unreadable, and walks really fast? Isabel didn't even look up. A boy repellent. A loud snort came from the back of the class. Ethan clapped his hand over his mouth, barely containing a laugh. Mike grinned like he'd just seen a lion bite its trainer. Neat raised his eyebrows, then tilted his head. Spicy. I wasn't trying to be, she muttered. I know, he said, voice dropping. That's the best part. Lunch came too quickly, but the air buzzed with fresh gossip. At the usual table, the boys sat in a circle of laughter and half-eaten food. She flamed you in class, Mike said, tapping his tray. Did you hear that line? Boy repellent? I felt that. She's funny, Ethan added. Unbothered. You're losing, Neat. Neat chewed slowly, eyes on the far side of the cafeteria. You think I'm losing? She hasn't even looked at you, Reuben pointed out, which honestly is new for you. Larry leaned back with a lazy smile. So what's the plan now, Mr. Casanova? Neat set his drink down, mouth curling into a smirk. I adjust. The library was quiet. Isabel had claimed her usual spot, tucked between two towering shelves of fiction, her notebook open in front of her. She was halfway through a line of poetry when someone sat across from her. She looked up. Neat. Again. I thought you hated books, she said flatly. I hate boring books, he corrected. But I figured I'd give this one a chance. She raised an eyebrow. This one? You, he said. Isabel stared at him for a second too long. Then she stood up. Neat followed, not close, just trailing her path like a shadow. I'm not playing whatever game you're starting, she said without turning around. He stopped. I know, he said softly, but you're already in it. That night, Isabel wrote slower than usual. Day 1. He's trying. I don't get why. He's got charm, friends, and a spotlight. But I won't be a footnote in his story, right? She closed the journal and stared at the ceiling. Meanwhile, across town, Neat stared at her name on his screen, unread messages glowing quietly in the dark. The game had begun, and neither of them knew just how deep it would go.